Andrew Arons, founder and partner at Synergy Advisory Management Group. Happy Thanksgiving Eve. Thank you for taking the time. Okay, what a wonky week on Wall Street it was. Okay, NASDAQ notching a record close, but the other indexes, of course, not exactly riding the same momentum that they did yesterday when everyone was passing out the Dow 30K hats. What are your biggest takeaways from today's trading before the holiday?
Well, it's pretty light day typically before the holiday, and we had a huge move obviously yesterday. And just, kind of digesting what happened a little bit yesterday, getting ready for the holiday here. But the markets are hanging in pretty well. The NASDAQ making a new high as we just spoke about. Still a lot of money moving into the tech market, and I think that's going to continue to happen.
What are the biggest things weighing on investors that you think, Andrew, are not getting enough attention right now? What do you sort of have your eye on? They say, I don't think that's earning quite the headline space or the margin inches for reporters.
Well, I mean, I always look at cyclical patterns that exist in the market, and they typically happen from November to May, and I don't think a lot of people really talk about it, but the Dow has been up 75% of the time from November to May, going back to 1950. So we're in a really good spot here in the market. We have a lot of liquidity in the market right now. And I'm very optimistic on the upcoming year. I just feel like the market may have gotten a little bit ahead of itself, but we do have some stimulus coming, and I think that that's going to be also great for the market as well.
What gives you confidence we have stimulus coming, and what's your expected timeline on that? Is it just sort of that we're going to have a new administration, and at some point they got to get something done, you would think?
Well, I mean, they're going to have to get something done. I don't really know the timeline on it. It would be nice. I know everyone's reconvening on November 30th, so it would be very nice if they got together and people could get their checks by the beginning of the year. That would be overly optimistic. But really, we don't know what's going to happen, and we'll just all have to find out.
Well, for whatever it is worth, from my own insights, and I don't cover Wall Street as closely as I do Capitol Hill, I don't see it happening anytime soon, but that's just my own inside take there for the power struggle inside the U.S. Capitol. Talk to us about a vaccine timeline. What do you think investors are pricing in? What are your expectations, and how do you think that's going to play itself out here in 2021?
Well, I mean, I think that the timeline for the vaccine, hopefully, the market's looking at it as hopefully, by June we should have the vaccine administered to most people, and hopefully we'll have some normalcy by mid-year. And I think that's what the market's really looking into right now. The market typically looks about 6 months ahead, so that's what we're looking at right now. And there's a lot of optimism, and hopefully these vaccines get rolled out efficiently. And I think people should be excited because of the so far all the news is really good.
Well, most of the news is very good. I think on the vaccine front, it absolutely is, but not on the fight for COVID. On the same day here, Andrew, that the Dow Jones Industrial Average tops 30,000 for the first time in the index's history, 2,216 Americans died from COVID-19. The coronavirus surge in numbers in cases, hospitalizations, and deaths are more grim today than they have ever been. And the expectations from public health officials, Andrew, are that the next several weeks, perhaps even the next few months, could really show us that the worst is still ahead. How do you see this as a direct discrepancy? And what would you tell people who were sort of looking at the gains in the markets and wondering if there's just a massive disconnect with the reality of the struggles of a lot of Americans?
Well, the market is not exactly the same as the economy. The market trades a lot differently than what's actually going on in real world on the ground right now. Unfortunately, we're dealing with this coronavirus. It's a very hard thing to deal with, and unfortunately, the numbers are spiking here. But it is holiday season, and I think this was anticipated. But the good news is there's a vaccine hopefully around the corner. So we'll see what happens with that. But very excited to see, what happens in the next quarter or so, with the delivering of the vaccine and the market. Hopefully it will all be very positive.
What are the top sectors you're keeping your eye on here? And I'm curious if there's been anything you've come across with regards to the priorities of a Biden White House. Do you see particular sectors inherently benefiting in, let's say, the next 2 quarters, which would be essentially the first 2 quarters of a Biden White House, you think?
Well, I don't know. I know that they're talking maybe that solar may do pretty well, going forward. Hopefully, we're going to see some construction going on, and we're going to start to see, stocks like maybe Caterpillar and do pretty well in the future. I think that may happen. That stock has struggled a little bit, but I think going forward, it's going to be pretty important. I think a lot of the value stocks that have been under pressure most of the year, we're starting to see a rotation into energy, real estate. So I think some of these stocks look like they may come back, in the upcoming year under the new administration.
Finally, Andrew, with regards to central bank monetary policy, we know interest rates are largely going to stay where they're at. Is that sort of your expectation that investors are sort of already pricing or baking that in through the end of 2021 or 2022 even?
I think investors right now are baking low interest rates into 2022, but it actually might even be longer than that. I think rates may be low until 2023, 2024. So that all bodes well for the market. There's really no other place to go right now but the stock market, and even with the coronavirus spiking right now, that's why the money is just going right into the markets.
I think that would be welcome news for many people in the space. Andrew Arons, have a very happy Thanksgiving. Really appreciate you taking the time. Andrew is founder and partner at Synergy Advisory Management Group.